Welcome to DeFi, crypto, and airdrops.
Ding, 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 ding.
Tonight we have in the red corner Aave, and in the blue corner Morpho. We're gonna jump into this here in a second after I kick it over to Jeff to do the socials. But we're gonna talk about just kind of what's going on with Aave and Morpho individually, and then just kind of some of the recent history of the two projects going head to head with each other, and kind of starting to battle out for the little bit of volume and TVL that is available right now. It's been kind of a bit of a drought when it comes to interest in crypto in general. DeFi surprisingly has held up very, very well. I have my personal thoughts on why that is, but before we get too deep into it, Jeff, do you want to run us through the socials and then we'll get started?
Yes. That's which screen is it? This guy? Is that the right one?
That's the right one.
I know there's like 20 different screens on here. No, welcome everyone. We appreciate you all for joining us here on this beautiful Christmas week. Hope you're having a wonderful holiday season, spending it with family, touching grass, and hopefully some ass. But here at DeFi Crypto and Airdrops, where me and Mike go live every Tuesday and Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And we got our not just our show, but Mike also goes live with Taylor and Texas Jeff. So there's two Jeffs on this channel that for Money Talks on Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Wednesdays, it's a DeFi Masterclass with David and Jake at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. And David was on the show with us as a guest on Friday. That was a nice, long, fun chit chat. and the chat was fucking awesome too. So
yeah, it was.
If you're on Twitter, please jump over on the YouTube stream because you can engage in the chat over there. But also Mike has DeFi Academy, a 12 video course basically, and interviews on Thursdays. Our brother channels, Jake Call, Blockchain Basement, Discover Crypto, and DeFi University. Also, the links right here and also in the description of the video, you have Metrics Finance, David's DeFi University School, and also Mike's DeFi WIZE. The Metrics Finance is basically a portfolio tracker simulator for DeFi. And Jake is working together with David on bringing in more features. So it is free to start. And we recommend you start with the free version, utilize it for a while and see if it brings you any value. Then you can do monthly or yearly subscription. David's DeFi University, we went through it a little bit on Friday, and it is free to start. Go to the website, the DeFi University homepage, sign up.
What he's saying, pretty much the whole thing is free now. If you pay the $97 a month, it's that's what gets you the one-on-one, the live, the live calls to where you can interact live with David and kind of the rest of the community. Because there's a DeFi Don is one of them. He's in the chat right now. But there's a lot of really knowledgeable people in that community as far as advanced strategies and delta neutral positions and things like that. It's great resource, and it's just the value. It's free. Might as well.
Yeah. I'm gonna start going through that this week since I got some time. The call today, yeah, man. And he broke down each day that there's specific things that happen each day. So it's not just the same thing, you're getting a step-by-step progress. And Mike's DeFi WIZE newsletter goes out Monday through Friday for less than $20 a month. You get ranges that are nailed pretty spot on. Market breakdowns, and it comes out before the market opens, the traditional finance markets. So early in the morning, and that's when you usually get the morning volatility, the 10 a.m., 7 a.m. Price, reversals. If you've been following, it's pretty consistent. But yeah, they try and get those out before the markets open early in the morning. You can check us out on Twitter, _only_DCA. Mike at Veteran4Crypto, me at the BCR142. We're streaming on Pump.fun and the Arena. So check us out on the Arena. Let me go ahead and repost this. And yeah, the Arena is a new one. Probably going to be much better than YouTube. And they had one guy from the Arena, right? I think on the Blockchain Basement last week. I know he was wearing the hat or the shirt. So I think he might have been somebody part of the team. But
okay. No, I know that Matt guy that's been on with Drew. I know that he's like really, really big, into the Arena, but that's probably not who you're talking about.
No, there was a third guy that they were actually talking about Avalanche, the project, and how, it was kind of had some shady stuff going on. But yeah, you'll have to go back. I'll have to go back and check and see what the dude is all about. But yeah, and on YouTube, smash the like, give us a follow, help support the channel, and we appreciate all of you for joining. Oh, and our Discord's free too, so jump in there, and you can get one-on-one connect with us. So,
Uncle Tommy says he thinks that the guy was the co-creator of AVAX. So,
okay,
that's a big deal. Speaking of which, speaking of co-founders, I got some really good news this morning. So I was making some comments about Canton Network, and actually, I'll pull it up real quick. I reached out because he kept liking the comments that I was making about Canton Network, and one of the co-founders, Saul, and I apologize if I get the last name wrong, Kafir, Kfir. He actually reached out because I mentioned, if they had anybody that might be interested in coming on, because there's a lot of people that a lot of confusion about Canton Network, because it's a very, very unique project. A lot of people don't realize that they've been building for like 10 years. It's a somewhat new project as far as people hearing about it, knowing about it, oddly enough. But they've been building quietly for quite a while. And the Saul guy that I was talking to, I did a little bit of a background on him, and he has quite the impressive background, but I'll save that for the interview.
Whoa.
But he actually is I'm waiting to hear back, but we're thinking probably sometime after the holidays is when we'll have him on. And I might have Drew come on and help me with the interview, and then me and you can kind of help out and kind of run the chat and things like that. But yeah, I really want to make sure that we get max exposure on this, because I see Canton Network as a very, very interesting project. And I'm kind of curious myself how the value of the project is potentially going to not transition, but translate over to the token holders. So if at all, and again, the tokenomics, I've been looking into it, and I've been noticing that, and I don't want to get too deep into it, but in a nutshell, the burn rate, the burn mint rate, as the network gets more busy, less tokens are minted and more tokens are burnt. So the busier the network gets, then the less the supply shrinks, is my understanding. So again, I'm still learning. It's not proof of stake, it's proof of stake holder. But again, I don't want to talk this whole episode up. I want to get to Aave and Morpho. Anything that you want to add before we jump into this?
No, that's a big thing, because there was some stuff you were sharing last week about privacy and some comments that make sense. Because if there was something that you commented on somebody said if I paid somebody for work using crypto, and then that person looked at their wallet, and so basically you could see how much their net worth was of
Mhm.
that wallet, and you don't necessarily want that, because if they know how much you're worth, or at least that wallet, you could potentially be a target, especially with all the shit that's going on in France and the EU, where people are being abducted or murdered and extorted for crypto. It's
Well, the cool thing about Canton Network, and again, this is my understanding so far, is it can be both private and public.
mm,
So it's basically dependent on the customer. So like if banks, obviously that they want to be behind a layer of privacy, but if
yeah,
somebody wants to have an open, like basically, have it be open and transparent, they can opt to do that as well. But again, we'll talk about that another time.
yeah.
So, all right,
Morpho.
introduction to Aave and Morpho. So Aave and Morpho are two leading DeFi lending protocols. Aave remains the dominant player with massive TVL. Last I looked, it was 30 to 40 billion, plus across multiple chains. Proven features like flash loans and multi-chain support, while Morpho, powered by Morpho Blue, is a fast-growing challenger, emphasizing capital efficiency, permissionless vaults, and superior yields through peer-to-peer matching. So Morpho is on base network, but it is multi-chain. Aave is on Ethereum, and it is also multi-chain. So as far as that goes, they're kind of neck and neck. Now, as
Hmm.
far as TVL, let's take a look at that. Aave is the 800-pound gorilla. I
Hmm.
believe this is a little bit off. I believe it's more than this, but this is showing 33 billion. Whereas Morpho is, I know that's off. That's only showing 5.7 billion. But I actually went to the website. Let's see, where is that at? Oh, there it is. So deposits is almost 9 billion.
Hmm.
So it's approaching 1/3 of what DeFi Llama is, or is showing on, or Aave is showing on DeFi Llama. Now, remember, Morpho is relatively new, whereas Aave has been around for years and years and years. Not too long ago, a couple of months ago, Aave actually had, as part of their new alignment user reward system, they actually had a part of it where user of non-aligned protocol severe dilution up to negative 100%. So we propose to launch Merit with a single protocol with non-aligned status, all Morpho products. So basically, anything that that used Morpho products, they were going to penalize. So this was kind of the shot across the bow,
Damn.
where everyone kind of saw that Aave was getting nervous because of how quickly Morpho was growing. Now, those that don't know, Morpho is the underlying protocol that allows Coinbase and many other platforms to offer borrowing and lending on their platforms natively without having to redirect people to the Morpho platform. So let's see here. So this is what I'm talking about. So on Morpho, there's enterprise grade products. So you can actually embed, if you develop a DApp or a DEX or something. There's actually developer tools to where
Hmm.
you can embed Morpho Blue onto your platform or in your DApp and offer directly to your customers the vaults, borrowing and lending in the vaults off of Morpho. Have you used any of these?
I've only used Aave just for campaigns and stuff. for certain like airdrop things, but I haven't actually put any liquidity in for a long period of time. And I was looking to see the different chains on Morpho because I know Aave has like a ton of chains. Um, but Morpho, what they have 10, I believe.
Morpho has 30.
Oh, 30. Oh, because I'm
Yeah,
looking on
Aave has
Explore.
18.
Oh shit. Okay.
So Aave has Ethereum, Plasma, Arbitrum, Base, Avalanche, Binance, Polygon, Linea, OP, Gnosis, Sonic, Celo, Scroll, ZK Sync, Sonium, Metis, Phantom, and Harmony. And
Oh,
I'm not going to go through all of them because I don't want to waste a bunch of time with it, but you
yeah.
can see that basically Morpho has
Huh,
all of those.
shit.
Plus they have, Plume mainnet. They got, I mean, a bunch of different ones. And
Oh,
we've gone over that before, how Morpho is a bridge between, and not in necessarily the traditional sense, but there's basically bridges for liquidity to move between Morpho and Plume mainnet.
because I'm looking at the Explore page on the Morpho site, and I looked at the chains under total deposits, and there was only what 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So, um, and then I'm on the Aave site, and I think they have 20. Plasma is on there. I didn't see that on the.
Yeah,
Uh, so,
that's on here. It's number 2, Ethereum, then Plasma.
oh, Plasma. Okay. Shit. So yeah, on the website there's 20 on the Aave, but yeah, I think that's and for those who aren't aware of these protocols, they're not they don't have liquidity pools. It's just lending and borrowing. Um
Oh, actually, I mean, it's
or just
yes
more
and no. So they don't have liquidity pools in the sense of like Aerodrome, but Aave, like, and this is the core architectural differences. Aave relies on pooled liquidity with DAO governed risk parameters and asset listings for stability and broad asset coverage. Morpho provides an immutable modular infrastructure layer with permissionless market creation and curated vaults. And that's those institutional vaults I was talking about.
mm,
Anyone can deploy isolated lending markets or permissionless vaults via Metamorpho for third party offerings with custom risk parameters, oracles, and strategies, enabling diverse lending experiences without centralized approval. And that's what I was talking about with, where you can basically embed Morpho, onto your platform.
got
Which,
it.
and honestly, to me, that's why I'm not saying that Morpho is better than Aave or anything like that. But the reason I lean towards Morpho is one, from price wise, if you look at the TVL compared to the market cap and the price, and all those things that Drew looks at,
Mhm.
it's, there's a lot more upside potential where, and with Morpho, it is on the base network and has partnerships with Coinbase and things like that. And its architecture allows for deep integration into, easily into other platforms. Whereas Aave is kind of standalone. And the barriers to entry to get to Aave, there's a steep learning curve. So until they come up with a way, to where they have developer tools to where, people can do the same thing
Mm.
to, kind of remove those barriers to entry or make it easier for people to use, their, borrow and lend, on their platform. I just see Morpho as having the advantage.
Yeah, I was just thinking that exact same thing because if you can make it to where you integrate their features into, whatever service you're providing,
Mm.
your in the whatever investor that your financial advisor that you go see, and they can sit down and they have their platform and say, hey, we have this integrated into our investment profile or portfolio. We can click on Morpho, and that way you don't have to go through all the hoops, because it is a steep learning curve, man. You got all these vaults and things to look at, what chain it's on, and if you can do that from one place, sort of a traditional finance facing organization, it would make it a lot easier to onboard these people into Web3.
Yeah,
And they
see,
wouldn't even realize it.
well, and see, this is what Drew's always talking about, where market cap to TVL. So the market cap is way down here. The market cap is 612 million, and the TVL, or total value locked, the amount of value on Morpho is, according to this, it's 5.7 billion, but it's actually on the website, like I said, it was like what, 10 billion. So there's a huge disparity between the two. If the valuation, if you're doing the valuation based off of TVL, which a lot of crypto does, market cap and TVL. The value of the chain is determined by how much value is on the chain. That's kind of, been the going, ruler, or the, kind of the rule of thumb as of so far. I think that potentially could change to, include fees or, revenue generated by, whatever it is that it does. If that's, like on Aerodrome, if that's, swap fees, or, whatever that is. So, we're still very early in this tech. And so, figuring that out is, kind of going to be part of the process, as this, industry matures. It's going to, we're going to find out kind of that, we're moving from speculation to utility. We're moving into price discovery, because, price was purely speculative with retail. It was whatever people, threw their money at is kind of what determined the price. Whereas, I think with institutions, they are going to start valuing these projects like smart money values companies. Again, revenue that it generates, how much value, how many, assets do they have? What's their overhead? Do they have, like Circle? Circle is a great example. I think they have like 50, like they just recently hired like 20 or 30 people. So they have like 50 employees.
Shit.
And I forget what their, freaking valuation was, but it's like in the trillions or something like that. And so, yeah, like I forget what it's called, but basically their overhead compared to their valuation is like crazy lopsided. They're like one of the, best when it comes to, that measure. But again, I forget what that's called.
And both the Aave and Morpho are hiring, back end full stack engineers, infrastructure engineers.
Nice.
So they got a lot of stuff going on. And I wanted to ask you about the, I know it's not a typical like a liquidity pool style DeFi service, but do you know if, like, when you lend or deposit your funds, are they using it for people to borrow only, or are they also allowing people to swap those tokens, or like are they taking that and having like a swap offering, kind of like liquidity pools do?
Are you talking about on Morpho or on
Morpho
Aave?
or Aave, when you
Aave,
deposit into the pool, what's the
Aave does have a swap option. If yeah, right here. Oh, sorry. Right here. You can swap, and then you can bridge, on the platform. So you can bridge using GHO, and you can swap. And they have, they have staking, they have, and these are things that Morpho doesn't have.
okay.
Last I looked, I'll have to look again here in a
If you
second.
deposit like USDC, is that deposited token that you're providing liquidity for, is that only for people to
Yes.
or okay.
That's and again, I could be wrong. I fully admit that I don't know all the ins and outs. I mean, it's so hard to know, and they're always evolving. So it's hard to know like all the details. But my understanding is, let's see, if I hit swap, I was hoping maybe if I hit swap, it would maybe show if it was Aave's native, swap, or if it was, leveraging, say, Uniswap, for their swapping.
Oh
So,
yeah.
but there isn't liquidity pools on, or in the traditional sense of, the two assets, and that's usually what you need to be able to do swaps.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is just like they're using GHO to bridge, they're using another protocol, or to do the swapping. But again,
Okay.
maybe let me know in the chat if I'm wrong about that.
Yeah,
But
real quick, I have it pulled up here.
oh, go ahead.
So
Yeah, please.
yeah, I connected my wallet, and this is the swap feature. Um, so you can choose between different chains right here, but I don't know. It might be a built-in service, so I don't know
I
what
just
they.
don't know where they would get that,
Um,
because
let's see.
they would have to utilize the vaults, and I don't know if that's.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't say where they actually source that liquidity from.
You know
So,
what? Let's ask our co-host.
hey, Mr. Miles.
Hey, Maz. Hey, Miles, how's it going? We're live with the crew and with Jeff, and had a question for you. We're looking we're looking at Aave, the lending protocol on Ethereum, and we're looking at Morpho on Base Network. But we had a question about Aave. They have a swap feature on their website, and we don't see any liquidity pools on Aave with pairs of assets that are usually used to provide the liquidity for swaps. Where does Aave get the liquidity to provide that swap feature?
I can't hear him. Oh,
You can't
oh,
hear
you're
him?
not capturing audio. Yeah, it says that you're not capturing audio.
Oh, here, let me try this. Let's see. Let share screen, and I will do the entire screen. Let's try
Yeah.
this. Can you hear him?
No. Nope.
Well, I'll listen to him, and if you want to go ahead and well, here, let me. Yeah, we'll have to mess with this another time. For whatever
Yeah.
reason, it's not wanting to work.
Sorry, Miles.
All right. So sorry about that. We'll have to mess with that after the show and see why that wasn't working. But we haven't used Miles with the StreamYard yet, so we'll have to figure out what that's all about. Um, but some one thing I did want to show, and it looks like Aave is just as good as Morpho when it comes to the relationship of TVL to market cap. So the market cap is, you can see it's this, kind of magenta line, down here at the bottom, and the TVL is freaking way up here. So there's quite the opportunity potentially for some, good price appreciation. So I will admit that I was wrong on that. You can't argue with data.
No. Well, Ave's been out a while though. I mean, I was looking at the Morpho, what TVL, and they started almost 2 years ago is the earliest. So December 27th, 2023. And they had at least the first 2 weeks until January 3rd, they had $0. And then it started climbing. So the beginning of January 24, so almost 2 years ago. So very, very new.
Yes. So no. Well, here, let's go on to the next
They've
topic.
exploded this summer. I mean,
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. So permissionless innovation and third-party offerings. And this kind of goes into what I was talking about with Morpho, a little bit ago. Morpho's design allows third parties, for example, Gauntlet, Stakehouse, or institutions like Coinbase to freely create and curate their own vaults and markets on the shared infrastructure, fostering competition and specialized products. Aave does not permit third parties to create independent pools or markets. New assets, parameters, and features require DAO governance approval, maintaining a monolithic unified structure. So that's for me, and I want to get your input. For me, that that's a nice uppercut from Morpho, on the chin of Aave, just because that gives a lot more coverage, whereas Morpho can basically replicate itself and spread all over the place, whereas Aave is centralized to where everybody has to come to Aave and use that platform in order to access that liquidity. So
Yeah, I mean that. And do you think that's why Aave put that in their documents or their notes saying that we're going to penalize you? You know, they could be keeping tabs on them, saying, "Hey, I see what they're trying to do," and I mean it's a friendly
oh
competition.
no,
You know,
you got to know your enemy. I mean,
yeah,
and not to say that everybody of that religion is my enemy, but when we were talking on Friday, and I showed the Quran.
yeah,
It's the people we were fighting, they they were radical Islamists, and that was their motivation. And so you have to know what your enemy's thinking and what motivates your enemy or your competition, in business and in war, and in life. And because that's going to, help you understand them and know how to outmaneuver them. Because business is just financial warfare. I mean, it's, if you're not, figuring out, what your competition is doing and what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong, and you're just kind of operating in a bubble, you're not going to last very long.
yeah. Sun Tzu, The Art of War, man, that was
Exactly.
killer,
No,
killer book. If you haven't read that,
yeah, no, it's a little bit of a tough read. You gotta really kind of ponder and contemplate each little passage, but
yeah,
it's valuable, and not just in war. I mean, in life.
yeah.
It's yeah. So yeah, I read that early on in my military career. All right, what else do we got? Ave's competitive response. So this is that merit program rolled out in 2024 and refined into 2025. Aave's merit system rewards aligned users with wrapped ETH and GHO airdrops, while aggressively penalizing that negative 100% rewards those routing through Morpho optimizers. Widely viewed as a targeted effort to protect TVL amid Morpho's yield advantages and growth. So one thing that happened recently that kind of caused Aave to take a bit of a dip, and not to say that it's going to kill the project, but it wasn't a good look. The Aave team, unilaterally, my understanding, and actually I think I saved a post on it. Let me check, just because I want to make sure I get this right. I don't want to do this off the cuff, because It's too important. All right, here we go. Aave is having a full-blown civil war, and it might be the biggest governance fight DeFi has ever seen. Here's the clean breakdown. Aave has two sides. Aave Labs, a centralized entity founded by Stani, and Aave DAO, token holders who govern the protocol. Here's what is happening. December 4th of this year, Aave Labs announced a partnership with CowSwap to improve swap pricing plus MEV protection on the Aave interface. December 11th, a popular delegate drops on-chain analysis stating that swap fees from the new CowSwap contract are being routed to a private wallet controlled by Aave Labs, not the DAO. Translation: DAO revenue just got quietly cut off. And this is just this person's observations. If any of this is wrong, I apologize. I'm just reading what's being reported here. December 12th, Mark Zeller, the largest delegate, Aave Chan Initiative, calls it stealth privatization, claims $10 million per year that should go to the DAO is gone. December 16th, things go nuclear. A proposal called Poison Pill by Tulip King. The demands: seize all Aave intellectual property, code, and brand. Force Aave Labs to become a DAO-owned subsidiary. Claw back all past revenue earned using the Aave brand. B. Then comes proposal number 2, brand seizure by former CTO of Aave Labs. Move trademarks, domains, and socials to the DAO immediately. Logic: if DAO pays for dev plus marketing, then DAO should own the brand, domains, and socials. Makes sense to me. Aave Labs, Stani's defense: this CowSwap thing was never a fee switch. Front-end revenue was a surplus Labs donated voluntarily. Aave Labs is a private company. DAO owns the contracts, not the website. Labs pays for hosting, security, and front-end engineers. Now the plot twist. Amid all this chaos, Aave Labs opens a snapshot vote on December 23rd. The proposal: give Aave token, Aave DAO holders explicit control over brand assets, domains, socials, naming rights, GitHub, NPM, whatever that is. You know what that is?
NPM, I think that's some type of software package or like programming language stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Everything. Except the author of the proposal says he never approved it. He claims it was rushed to vote with his name on it while discussion was still active, calls it disgraceful, urges people to abstain. Whoever this is, initiative founder, Aave DAO service provider, says the proposal was rushed during holidays with fresh delegations gaining voting power. Zoom out. This isn't about CowSwap. This isn't about one wallet. This is the unresolved question of DeFi. Who actually owns a protocol? The code, the front end, or the brand? Aave is about to set a precedent, and everyone is watching. So this is still going on. And this is why one of the reasons why the price dipped recently. Aave is a solid project, but there is some infighting going on, and it is not a good look. And potentially that makes people nervous. When you have liquidity on a platform and you have the DAO, which is one half of the brand, or one half of the governance of the protocol, and Aave Labs, which is, like they said, the front end, the developers, the website, the legal, the lawyers, just all of the stuff that the day-to-day operations is basically Aave Labs, compliance, things like that. So there's those two entities are fighting with each other. So what happens? If they can't come to some kind of resolution? I don't know. Because it looks like Aave Labs has legal rights to parts of it, and the DAO has legal rights to other parts of it. And what does the documentation, how does that read? To where if the DAO votes on something, does Aave Labs have to comply? Like they don't have a choice? I don't know. I'm not a huge expert on DAOs. Do you know?
No, I haven't really seen anything like this before in crypto, especially at this scale. So I wonder if this could set some type of future framework for regulation on
Oh, set like a legal precedent.
yeah, protecting IP and certain things in the project, and having to keep things kind of siloed in a way. Because yeah, I don't know what would happen if they split. And yeah, this is fascinating. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting just to see how this plays out. I'm keeping a very, just because I'm so into DeFi, I'm keeping a very close eye on this, because if they can't, and I'm sure they'll come to some kind of resolution. I mean, there's way too much, Aave is way too established protocol to, just dissolve. I mean, there's going to have to be some sort of middle ground that they're going to have to find. What that's going to look like, I don't know though. So yeah, I'll be the Q1 of next year is going to be interesting.
Yeah, price did take a pretty big hit this month. I mean, damn.
Oh yeah.
So it's the daily. So it's at 150.
Oh yeah. Well, zoom in on the last couple of days. Because yeah, see, like you can see where it started the downturn up about like a week ago or something. I think it was around there that it happened. And it's just been, kind of petering off. And and again, I'm not a TA guy. Anybody that watches the channel knows, but it looks like it's at a level of support. Zoom back out a bit. Yeah, it looks like it's getting down towards it's at a small level of support, but if it goes a little bit lower, it's going to be at a major, right a little lower, right there, like right about there. You can see like on the far left of your screen, that right there, it was resistance back there, and then there's that whole range to the right.
Yep.
Where it was support there, and then you can see that massive downturn, that big V formation there on the right, that massive V where it bounced. It's at that same level, just all the way across. You can just see that where it's been support and resistance multiple times before. So yeah, if it goes down past there, I would be concerned personally. I don't own Aave. I don't have any Aave. Not, and it's a great project. Don't get me wrong. I have to limit myself to how many projects I can be invested in, or I'll go crazy. So
yeah, I mean, I would even say 120 because look, that's where even a little below, because that's where price reversed right here, and then right here, and even some resistance right here. So I would say, yeah, this 120 to 140 range, it dropped out of that. I mean,
here's a good question. Do we need to pull out our liquidity before they halt withdrawing? I wouldn't think that this is a case where, and do whatever, it's your liquidity, do whatever you want. If it was me, I wouldn't worry so much about that. The health of the platform is great. They have great TVL. The assets are being borrowed. It's generating revenue, very healthy protocol. There's just some infighting going on. And that is going to cause people to get nervous. I don't see how that would affect, how the protocol is run. It's just there's going to be some infighting, until they solidify, what belongs to who. That cow swap, fees. Does that go to the DAO? Does that go to Aave? The fact that Aave Labs was able to do that, without the governance body, which is the DAO, the fact that they were able to do that cow swap thing and route those fees, it might just be that the governing body will have to do a vote and say, where do those fees go? It might be that simple. Again, I don't know, but I wouldn't think that this would be cause for concern for your liquidity, to answer your question.
And I don't know if they can actually halt withdrawals like that without having a vote, because it is a decentralized platform. It can't just be like Coinbase and, hit the stop button, right? That's essentially what it's designed for, is, there has to be a vote in order to have something like that happen. So,
yeah.
Yeah, at least to my knowledge.
That and that's my understanding as well of how DAOs work. Again, I'm not a DAO expert. My experience with DAOs was very early on in crypto, right after I experimented with memes with Shiba. I got into Time Wonderland, and it was a freaking shitstorm. After that, I was like, I want nothing to do with DAOs. To me, it's an accurate representation of why I don't believe in pure democracy, where like basically the mob, everyone gets a voice and it's like mob rule, because that's basically what a DAO is. It's a bunch of people in a room screaming and yelling about how they think things should be done, and no one's listening. They're just all screaming at each other about how how it all should be done. And so I'm out on that. And it's kind of one of the reasons why, me personally, I'm just not that bullish on on Aave. And again, it could just be my ignorance, because it is a great protocol, and I mean, you can't argue with the TVL they have and the success that they've had. I don't like DAOs. I want people that are smart, intelligent, subject matter experts, making decisions, running things, not a bunch of guys like me that that are sitting behind their computer at home that have no experience running financial platforms, trying to decide how it should be run.
Yeah, and have you done any looping on any of these yet, or gotten into looping at all?
A little bit. I played with it just for a minute, just to see how it felt, just for a minute, But it was, but nothing of any kind of substance. I just kind of wanted to see how the mechanics worked, as far as lending out, borrowing against it, lending that out, just kind of what the process of setting up a loop and then unwinding the loop, kind of how fluid that was. So whenever I do have a large amount of liquidity later on, and I wanted try looping, that I'm already familiar with the process, and if the APRs take a turn to where it ceases to be profitable, how difficult and how quickly am I going to be able to unwind my position, so as to mitigate my losses.
Yeah,
DeFi Don says, check out silver. Brother, I'm always looking at silver. I've been stacking silver since before I was a teenager. I had a buddy who owed me $5, and he gave me a Morgan silver dollar, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. It was minted in 1881, and so I've been stacking Morgans and silver coins for over 40 years now. And I ran a precious metals and collectible coin shop when it was my first job after I retired out of the military. And so I love precious metals and collectible coins. Just the coins, especially just because of the history and just every time I look at him, I'm like, man, this was probably in like some gunslinger's pocket when he got shot or shot somebody, or it was used at at a card table, or it's in the Wild West. I just like to look at it and just think of where has this thing been?
Stories, man.
Yeah, yeah.
The lore.
Yeah, if it had a voice and it could tell me its story of where it's been over the past, coming up on 200 years.
Yeah.
It just, to me, that's just infinitely freaking interesting. So, all right, let's see what we got up next. All right, the broader implications for the Aave drama escalated into a public clash over brand IP, domains, revenue control, and DAO versus founder and team authority. Included rushed snapshot votes, holiday timing backlash, significant Aave token dumps, 10 to 18% price drops, and debates on decentralization in mature DeFi protocols. Future outlook. Aave benefits from scale, upcoming V4 upgrades, and consumer-focused apps, but faces trust erosion from governance issues. Morpho is positioned for continued gains as lending infrastructure for institutions. UA's modularity and permissionless third-party innovation, potentially closing the TVL gap further. So I see a lot more landed punches so far. And of course you don't need to agree. I want to hear your thoughts. But so far in what we've talked about, and of course, admittedly I'm biased, towards base and Morpho, but being purely objective, with the way that Morpho is built out, it's not a DAO. There's not going to be infighting. It has that those developer tools to where Stakehouse and Coinbase and all of these. Where's it at? Yeah, all of these companies. So you got Centrifuge, you got Safe, you got Lemon, you got Ledger, Gemini, Crypto.com, Coinbase, Bitpanda, just all of these different companies have integrated Morpho into their offerings. And then of course Plume, one of my favorite projects. There's Morpho Lite that's over there to where you can borrow and lend. So personally, I just see a lot more potential for Morpho, not to mention a much smaller market cap. So, more potential upside. It's just, it's removing those barriers to entry between retail and, DeFi, and, making it a lot easier for people to provide liquidity and to borrow liquidity. And, with the way that Morpho is built, you can have somebody can build an app on a phone that simply allows them to connect their wallet on their phone and borrow and lend. Just quick one button borrow, one button lend. It's just that easy. Whereas Aave is there's more to it. With the gas fees and all those different things, and trying to figure out what gas fees to use, and I don't know. That's my 2 cents. What are your thoughts?
Well, think about like Glider, how they integrated some of those DeFi protocols into their platform. I mean, you don't have to go out and access the Morpho website. You can do it from the GliderFi. I think Morpho was integrated in them, or Mamo. Mamo can have them integrated into their features, and you just deposit and they go out and do the lending and borrowing and stuff. I think Aave could be more geared towards institutions, since it is like a legacy. It'd be more legacy.
I would see it the other direction, because I mean, Morpho is geared towards institutions.
Okay.
The way that it's built out. That's kind of what we covered earlier. is where is it at?
'Cause I was thinking with the developer tools and stuff, it'd be more friendly for retail. I mean, Morpho could capture both sides, retail and
No,
institution.
no, I mean, it already has. I mean, it's, via Coinbase, and, a lot of that is, it's capturing, retail, but, vaults, institutional vaults on, Morpho, like Steakhouse, like here, I'll go there real quick. Doo-ba-doo. Yeah, so all of these different vaults. So you have Yearn
Yeah.
Finance, you have XtraFi, you have ClearStar, you have Steakhouse, you have Architect, Farcaster,
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet.
Yeah.
All of these are all different, individual institutions that started these vaults and,
Ah,
and are offering yield. They're the curators that, and they have, over here, this is the basket of assets that can, basically make up the vault. So, when you're depositing liquidity, you're basically, investing in this basket of assets, and that basket of assets being,
yeah.
borrowed and, things like that is how they're generating this yield. So, it's,
Do you
I just
think do you think Aave could be like the Yahoo and Morpho could be like the Google coming up and from behind
potentially,
like
potentially, it's just, it's a much more streamlined,
Yeah.
product. And Aave, they had the first mover advantage,
Mhm.
but it was when the tech was very new.
Yeah.
Morpho being, newer, they, they built for the, kind of the crypto, ecosystem, a more modern crypto ecosystem, and,
Mhm.
with institutions in mind, because, the way things were moving, if you remember, a year or two ago, was that, we were starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Even 3-4 years ago, we were starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel where, when, Donald Trump announced that he was going to run again, and, he was pro crypto, and, all of those sorts of things. Um, the SEC, lost the lawsuit against Ripple. So, basically, many cryptos, weren't considered security. There was, the wheels were starting to turn in that direction. And so, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what was happening behind the scenes, but it really looks like that Morpho purpose built their platform for institutional use.
Mhm.
Just like, I think,
Yeah.
Canton Network, the new Aerodrome platform, Coinbase, with their, you know, offerings to where they, custody, institutional assets. Just that's why I'm so bullish on Base and, Coinbase. Not that I love Coinbase. I mean, Coinbase pisses me off every time there's high volume. It crashes and you can't fucking do anything.
Yep.
But you can't argue with what they're building, and with what the ecosystem that they're building, leveraging Morpho, leveraging, Aerodrome, leveraging Base Network, and becoming almost like a neobank, to where you can direct deposit your paychecks to it. You can earn on your savings account like 5, 6, 7% on USDC, which is, head and shoulders above a bank account. I just, I can't help but be bullish on Base and Base, projects, over, just, kind of those legacy, platforms.
Mhm.
Yes, they have more TVL, Uniswap, Aave, much more, TVL than, Aerodrome and Morpho. But there is a lot of liquidity pools on Aerodrome that outperform Uniswap already. And as of right now, Aerodrome is only on the Base network. Whereas Q2 of next year, we did a deep dive on it. It looks like there's going to, starting out as of right now, there's going to be at least 10 different networks, chains that Aerodrome is going to support. So that's a lot more liquidity. I'm wanting to say it was Tron that just got onboarded to Base Network and a couple of other ones already. And Tron is a Goliath when it comes to stable coins.
Yep.
So
yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about people earning off their stablecoin DeFi on Tron. Damn, that's a big one. Because Tron's used in a lot of other countries. A lot of countries.
Where was it I saw that?
It's not as popular in the US, but
oh, here we go.
You gotta think we're not the only ones utilizing crypto. I mean, these developing nations that don't have the types of access to banks and shit, they can use these to much better advantage.
So yeah, stablecoin market cap, $80 billion of TVL on Tron.
Ooh.
I mean, that's a lot of freaking.
Damn.
Let's see. Yeah, stablecoin market cap. Let's see what that has to say. Yeah, I mean it's just climbing and climbing and climbing. So and stable coins, if anybody out there listening, if you don't know, stable coins are the foundation of crypto and the future financial system. It's the reason why the US government, the first crypto bill that they drafted and signed into law and voted on and passed and signed into law was the Genius Act. It was the stablecoin, bill. And reason being is without clarity on stable coins, it doesn't matter what other bills or what other regulations they came up with, because it all requires stable coins. So they had to start with stable coins. So that's what I've been watching. I've been watching, the chains that have the most TVL when it comes to stable coins. And again, how they're connecting, who they're connecting to, because that is the liquidity, think of it as a reservoir of liquidity. And for that liquidity to be utilized, there needs to be the connections. There needs to be the interoperability between chains and protocols. So, just like they say, follow the money. Stable coins is the money. It's the digital representation of the dollar, or fiat. So if you can see what chains have that liquidity and what protocols are connecting to that liquidity, that tells you a lot about where this is all going and who's going to be the winners and who's going to be the losers. The ones that aren't, that are off, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't understand why so many people are bullish on Cardano, ADA. Is they don't even have USDC. I mean, they're talking about it recently, but they don't, they just barely started talking about getting USDC on Cardano.
Jesus.
I mean, they are so far behind the power curve. Midnight was like the big news for Cardano. And I don't know much about Midnight, so I won't talk about that.
Yeah, and speaking of Tron, they're so they had this news just yesterday, I think. They welcomed the acceptance of his silver.
He's talking about he likes to carry around a coal. A coal means like it's so worn that it's not collectible anymore. So it's just basically worth a silver value. So he says he likes to carry around a Cole Morgan silver dollar in his pocket.
I was wondering what Cole meant.
Yeah, it's just a term for, worn to shit.
So yeah, Tron welcomes the acceptance of USDT on Tron by the Financial Services Regulatory Authority as an accepted fiat reference token in the Abu Dhabi global market, the International Financial Center of Abu Dhabi. So this approval enables authorized persons licensed by the Financial Service Regulatory Authority of Abu Dhabi global market to use USDT on Tron and carrying out their regulated activities. So, and Abu Dhabi, they got some pretty wealthy people over there.
No, and again, that's what I'm watching is, I'm watching the money. It's, it really is that simple. Wherever the rich are putting their money, they're not going to give their money away. That's one thing you can count on is, they are smart money. Don't listen to, grain of salt when you're watching influencers like us, because we're not all knowing. It's like I'm sitting in a cabin in the middle of the woods. I'm not sitting in a mansion. I don't have a Lamborghini. It's like I'm just a retired guy that has a lot of time to research crypto. And I do all right. But be very careful about listening to people in retail. Social media, the hype posts that you see about different projects, it's really easy to get sucked into that echo chamber of, being bullish on a project for no good damn reason, other than you just see it a lot when you open your social media and you think because there's so much posting about it that it must be a good investment. Those days are coming to an end. Hype on social media is going to cease to move price, in my opinion. It's to be determined what is going to determine the price of a lot of these projects. Because again, in the past, it was whatever got the attention, the mind share, whatever got retail's attention and got people to FOMO into it. So, a lot of the market makers and stuff like that, they put money into marketing, because if they could get retail to start FOMOing into something and the price started going up, then other people would pile in and more people would pile in because everybody sees the price going up. And then they could unload their tokens while it's pumping and they would make money. But institutions wrecked a lot of those people on October 10th. On October 10th, a lot of those market makers that were used to, being the whales, the big sharks that were, sucking out the liquidity from retail, they got a bigger shark came along and took a big old bite out their ass.
See that, Wick? October 10th, right there.
No, like,
big all the charts.
Well, big institutions came in, and those market makers got a big old bite taken out their ass. And I think it was like 20 or 30% of them went out of business.
Fuck.
Because they got, that's what I was reading the other day. It was that bad. And that's why the markets have been so dead, is those market makers that used to move the price so much and give the market the volatility. A lot of those people are gone, and the rest of them are licking their wounds. So, and a lot of people, because crypto is, so down, there was a bit of a bull market. Bitcoin had, some nice returns. Early on, the ISO tokens, XRP, HBAR, XLM, all of those, they pumped for a minute. They've since, kind of given back some of that. There was some AI that pumped a bit, but as far as an actual alt season, like we've seen in the past, it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
It was very select. And so, it's just, we're in uncharted waters right now. And I'm seeing projects, and this is my closing thoughts. I'm seeing projects that are built and geared more towards institutional use are going to be the ones that end up being the Googles, the Microsofts, the Teslas, the Nvidias, things like that. because that is where the institutional money is going to go. And if they're investing in those platforms and those chains and things like that, that's where their liquidity is going to go. And where the liquidity is where the fees are going to be generated, where the revenue is going to be generated. And those projects that have the tokenomics or a mechanism in place for those fees to potentially translate over to profits for token holders, those are the projects that you want to be looking for, because those are the projects I'm looking for. A lot of that is still in flux. So in my humble opinion, looking at the current state of things between Aave, we just went 12 rounds between Aave and Morpho, and the judges, are sitting on the side. My vote is Morpho landed more punches and came out, less scuffed than Aave. It doesn't have the infighting. It's not scrambling and trying to snake TVL. It's just quietly growing. It's quietly onboarding. It's scaling, with that, that offering where they have developer tools to be integrated into other platforms. So it's not centralized in not the traditional sense, but everybody doesn't have to come to the Morpho platform in order to access that liquidity. So, in my opinion, Morpho wins the fight. What's your thoughts?
I was just thinking, you know how you have your corner men in after each round, you go sit in the corner and they help, buff
cut
you up
me,
water
cut me, cut.
Yeah,
my eyes swole shut. Cut me. That's what Aave's saying.
So, and that could be like, the Aave Labs and the Aave DAO. One could be the fighter and the other could be the cornerman, but they're trying to fuck each other up and it's not helping. It's like you go after each round, you're getting fucked up by your cornerman. So it's like, yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors. And like you said, the more this technology gets developed, the more stuff we're going to see a need for, like these institutional vaults. Companies or even companies themselves might have their own vaults and have maybe a retirement program. Like Tesla could have their own vault and say, hey, we're going to offer a retirement package. These vaults you can subscribe to, essentially, like a 401k, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we have these vaults. If you want to do this program, it's this percentage a year. You can have stuff shaved off and we'll put it in a vault for you.
And be able to borrow against it.
And yeah, borrow against it.
I mean, without having to go to a bank, I mean, you can have your, 401k or whatever, in it. And, yeah, you have like a medical expense or, a car, that breaks down, or, your kids going to college, or, whatever, you could actually borrow against it. You wouldn't have to sell it. You can borrow against it and, mitigate the APR that it costs to borrow with what you're earning on what you're lending. It's kind of the basics of DeFi. It's why a lot of us like doing a lot of the advanced strategies that David teaches. But sorry, I interrupted you. As
no,
usual.
and that's the point, because you can already borrow against your 401k up to a certain amount and pay that back over time. So why wouldn't you be able to do that essentially, with these vaults? So yeah, no, that's a great point. And we're still so early in this technology that, I mean, Aave being the first mover advantage, it's not going to always be great for projects to be the first mover, but, Morpho coming in hot on their heels, finding ways of positioning themselves to be a heavy hitter, like Google coming in behind Yahoo and then just taking over the search engine game. So yeah, and making sure that you're doing your due diligence and your research, not just listening to us. And even though we don't get paid by any projects, we speak our minds and give you the raw and real deal of what we think. So, go out and search for the information yourself after you hear stuff on our channel, on other channels, and make sure that you feel good about the project and not just seeing a bunch of influencers saying the same narrative like XRP. But Morpho, yeah, I like him.
Yeah, no, it's I see Morpho outpacing Aave. I've been watching the TVL for a while now, and and you look at, oh, excuse me, I got to sneeze. Oh, excuse me. I've watched Morpho go from under 2 billion to where it's approaching 10 billion now, and its growth has been outpacing Aave. Aave seems like it's been somewhat stagnant. Let me pull it up real quick. No, I mean, it's it looks like it got at one point about 45 billion, but now it's it lost about 10 billion in TVL recently. And yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like Morpho wins this one.
Yeah, it's a good play to kind of test out and get in early, and just Aave beware.
I'm getting mad dogged right now. My little meow is mad dogging me because I'm not paying attention to her. So yeah, I mean, that's about all I got, man. It's some good info. It honestly, going through it all kind of helped me better understand each project, kind of where they're at, how they've grown, and where they're going.
And they're offering.
Yeah. So, well, appreciate you all. Jay, Stan, DeFi Don. Looks like we got some new people in here. Matt Dat. I'm not even going to try to pronounce all that. We got Apps 018. We got the Deadwood, Nick Dunn, Uncle Tommy, Sabby Doctor, and then we got a bunch of people over on Pump.Fun and on the Arena. Appreciate all you guys. Appreciate all the follows on the Arena. Very, very much so. It's again, like like Jeff was saying, we don't monetize this. So we don't have memberships. We don't on YouTube, we haven't monetized or anything like that. So anything that you can do as far as liking and following to help us grow the channel, we greatly appreciate it. We are trying to focus on just integrity and giving information based off the information and not off of getting paid. Again, like Jeff mentioned, we do not accept any sort of crypto payments or anything to talk about a project, to have people on the show, anything like that. Everything that we do is it's purely for the love of the game. And if you do want to support the channel, the Arena does allow tipping, and the DeFi WIZE newsletter is a great way to support us as well. It's just we've recently gotten to a point to where we're about breaking even with the cost of streaming software and AI tools and things like that. We're about that break even point. So thank you to all of you out there that are supporting us. But I know that tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and Christmas is of course right after that. So we won't be having shows the next 2 days. But I want to thank you all and hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Much love to you and your families. And yeah.
Happy holidays.
All right. Till next time,
Be safe.
Veteran Crypto out.
Peace.